Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Great. How are you, Julie?
I'm great. Jennifer is joining us from Long Beach, California. Jennifer, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Thank you so much.
So, Jennifer, do you want to tell my viewers about your work and
I would love to.
your journey and especially your work with human trafficking?
I will. So, my journey has been very interesting. I have always worked in corporate travel and meetings. So I worked for a large Japanese automotive company here on the west coast of California. And I ended up going to move to Texas, where I was taking care of my mother. And that time for me is much of my journey about addressing human trafficking. I have been looking at this issue of human trafficking and helping for about the last 12 years, 13 years. But it really wasn't until I moved to Texas and spent a lot of time actually focused on my faith and understanding my purpose that really got me more certain of what I was to do. So I started a nonprofit called Rescue Party Give 2 years ago in Texas. And what the mission of the organization is really to raise the global awareness of human trafficking, that it is everywhere.
Right.
And it's not just in a foreign country, right? Just to share what's going on. In Texas, when I led this conversation, I talked about what's happening in Texas because there's about 40,000 people being human trafficked there.
Right.
And so just that conversation, opening the eyes, I gathered people together and invited community together. So Rescue Party Give is about rescuing the mind. It starts with rescue the mind.
Right.
And understanding that this issue, what makes a child vulnerable enough to run away from home, to get themselves involved in this issue of prostitution. Why do they no longer have that security or care for their own body? And then what makes a child attractive to a man? So these are the kind of conversations that Rescue Party Give looks to have. And we gather community together. So the very first event I did was really amazing because all the space was donated. It was donated by corporations, companies, donated a space so we could have an event. And then I had musicians play songs of freedom and artists paint what freedom looked like. And we auctioned off their paintings. I wasn't even a 501c3, which is, required in the US. You have to get yourself set up as a business.
Right.
So I raised $10,000 in 3 hours and I gave it all to another nonprofit. So yeah, it felt good. We had American Airlines sponsored us. So that was our big ticket opportunity. So I used that to leverage getting 4 tickets donated to an organization, International Justice Mission. And we went ahead and after that event, so that actually happened, that's our first event. But then what we did was we took 4 people with us to the Dominican Republic. And we actually got an opportunity to go see what this issue of human trafficking is really like.
Right.
And so I feel like that as much as what I do with Rescue Party Give is to try to raise that awareness and bring that attention to others. The other thing with COVID, it's been a very difficult time of trying to figure out how to get the recognition and continue working. But we launched a t-shirt campaign called Trek of the Traveling T-shirt. And it's a t-shirt that has "You are not alone" emblazoned on the front. And on the back is a beautiful heart, love. And so we have been sending that t-shirt all around the world. I just found out yesterday that our t-shirt has reached Israel.
Okay.
And so the goal of the t-shirt is to basically have people wear that t-shirt, share what's going on about human trafficking, whether they want to do a 30-second video, whether they want to just wear a picture of, with them, take a picture with themselves wearing the shirt. But then what happens is they're supposed to then take that shirt and give it to somebody else.
Right.
And so it's a trek, it's a journey, it's the shirt. So whether our wings have been clipped, that shirt just goes on its own.
Right.
So that's kind of what we've done.
Fantastic work. Fantastic. And I think much needed work. You're doing a great job. So what are the challenges you face, Jennifer, during your work?
You know what? It's interesting because my biggest challenge is the corporate environment, corporations. That is my strength and my background, again, in understanding. So the challenge is to get corporations to understand that human trafficking is such a big business. It's a $150 billion industry. And it's going to take almost a village, corporate involvement, government involvement, community involvement, everybody working together. It means addressing and taking a real introspective look within a company and realizing that the perpetrators, for example, the perpetrators of this crime that I have statistics on in the US, the individual makes $100,000 a year, and he's on average a white male. So he works among everyone. And, the same thing, it's travel. Travel is one thing that I will share that I'm concerned about. There's a lot of people very interested in the travel industry about travel getting back to normal. And they say tourism is the gateway to economic recovery. But I created a presentation that says tourism is the gateway to economic recovery of human trafficking as well.
Okay.
And I want to be able to have more dialogue with corporations and have conversation with executives. One of the biggest, I think, areas that have to be looked at, especially in the US, I think I'm hoping that more companies are no longer going to be tolerable about the situations like, I don't know if you've heard, Harvey Weinstein. He's a big movie producer, executive, and, it was finally realized what he has done in terms of demeaning women. And so it's that kind of, I'm hoping that there's going to be less tolerance for the situations that have created demeaning women, slavery, and to really open the eyes of corporations that they have a part to play in helping to stop the supply and demand of women and children.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's been a very interesting journey.
And I know that this work itself is a big challenge in itself because of, as you say, that it is, $150 million industry. So, what motivates you to keep you going? Because I'm sure that there are, let's not talk about the bigger challenges, but you will be facing small challenges on a regular basis during your work. So what motivates you? What keeps you going?
God. Truly for me, it's faith and purpose, and, I pray to God to just basically keep me brave enough to fight the status quo. Thanking God. I have gratitude to God for the fact that He has made me very creative. And I have a vivid imagination, as my husband says to me all the time. He says, you should write children's books. And I believe really that is probably one of the things I will do in order to help end human trafficking. I hope to write books for children and illustrate them. I draw as well, but it's almost like, for me, I think what motivates me so much is my own childhood and understanding of what is going on in the world. When I was 3 years old, I was sexually assaulted by a 14-year-old neighbor. But my mother found me and took me in her arms. And I knew that was, for me, I can look back at that. I wasn't harmed, I wasn't hurt, but I was like, what's going on in the world? And then learning more and more about this issue. The other things for me is my own family. I would say we have become a family of freedom fighters. But my brother-in-law left his prominent law firm to move his whole family from the US. They went to Bolivia, where my brother-in-law got involved with fighting against child violence. And at the time, his kids his youngest wasn't even 1 year old. And I was like, what are you doing? I think what drives me is just that whole understanding that we have to help. And I think the fact is, I look at look at the way I was raised in some respect. My mother, that was the one act of love that I remember. I can really say that my mom was when she grabbed me in her arms and took me away from a situation. But my mother had had mental illness most of my life.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think I grew up mostly without a mother, without any guidance and direction. And for me, again, it's a reflective perspective of looking where God always was with me and protected me. And so that for me is one of the reasons why in my heart today, I know that that is what he is wanting me to do, is to be the hands and the feet of this addressing this. I think I find that so much of what's going on in the world is also about money.
Yeah.
And when I was in the Dominican Republic, that was another thing that I'd heard, a case where a man was arrested for he was arrested for human trafficking. And when he was interviewed to ask, why did you do this to children? He said, what else was I supposed to do with all my money? Oh. So I think for me, I believe Rescue Party Give, the other aspect of the last word give was where the Lord told me, have other people give their talents. And he told me very specifically, it wasn't money.
Yes.
I think my mother used to tell me, do you think money grows on trees? And, I've always kind of looked at the sky and said, yes, it's paper. So for me, money has never had a hold on me, which I think I've been very blessed with that. And so I think, again, this keeps me going, is to try to get others to look at what is going on in the world. And really, like, from a prayer standpoint, like, I know it is to address for all of us to look at the 11th commandment. And that is in the Bible, where it is, we are to love one another.
Yeah.
That is my goal. That is my blessed, the way to live a blessed life.
Right. So I understand, Jennifer, that you're doing this fantastic work, but in future, what do you see? Where do you see yourself in another few years?
You know what? I see myself as growing in speaking. Something that I never thought I would be doing is to be out and about sharing my thoughts, to be a thought leader on this topic, to write books, to actually facilitate meetings within corporations. I mean, that is probably my dream right now, is to get myself into companies and be able to facilitate meetings that have people looking at leadership from a real paradigm shift to get to more of a moral leadership, moral organization, because I think it's kind of gone away from the work world in some respect.
Yeah. True. Good luck with that. And I'm sure that, with so much, as you said, that with vivid imagination and so much zeal you have for the work you're doing, with the blessings of the God, I'm sure that you will fulfill what you aspire to do. And Jennifer, thank you so much for taking out time and giving me this interview. We have 2 different parts of the world, but we could make it work. So thank you so much for being on this platform.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
So if you are viewing this channel for the first time, we have amazing women like Jennifer on this platform on a regular basis. So do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.